Hey, peace world. We jump in here, cook a little bit. I saw on Instagram it was a snippet from First Take, I guess, with Stephen A. Smith, and he made a comment about the way that Jaron Morant plays is going to be detrimental to him having any kind of longevity, in the game of basketball, and maybe some injuries derailing his career, and things going the way of Derrick Rose for him. That's the cautionary tale that most of us would jump to right away, is Derrick Rose. But and it's not necessarily that I disagree with Stephen A. Smith. That's some great stuff to sit and say in a studio. You got to fill a segment. You got to fill an hour of airtime, or 25 minutes of airtime, or whatever. You got to have something to say. You got to put on your analyst cap and say something that's going to hold people's attention. But I just feel like in a sport like basketball, you got to go out there and be the best version of you that you can be. Ja Morant, that's how you get the sneaker deal. That's how you take a team like the Memphis Grizzlies and make them must-see TV. That's how your team starts popping up on the national games. That's how you get different celebrities in the middle of, in Memphis. People from LA and people from New York and Miami or Florida or, Miami or something. That's how you get these people popping up in your arena, by going out there and dominating people with the athletic ability that you have. I don't know how you turn that off. I don't know how you go out here and say, I'm gonna limit myself in any kind of way. Now, could he take a look, and would it be sensible to take a look at a Trae Young and learn how to add more of the teardrop shots, the runners, the floaters? Would it make good sense to add that to your game so that you avoid hitting the ground as much, possibly? Yeah. Should you work on should you add or incorporate the mid-range game instead of getting all the way to the rim and taking all the contact? Hitting that ground every time you finish a bucket and climb, and you leave a little bit of you on that ground. But the NBA is a big man's game. If you're not 6'4" and up, 6'5" and up, you got to get it how you can get it. It's the reason why Isaiah Thomas only played 11 years. Now, I know back in the day, it was rare to see careers get extended to year 13, year 15. Nobody was doing what LeBron is doing, and some of the guys that have been able to play later into the, late 16 years and 17 years and whatnot. I know that wasn't happening back in the 80s and the early 90s maybe. But it's a big man's game. So all of these guys got to go in here and use, and take advantage and benefit from and optimize the athletic advantages that you have. Now, Ja's situation is a little weird because they were able to go 20-5, 20 wins and 5 losses in games without him being on the court. Most teams don't have that type of success when they lose their elite player. And from what I understand, they may have even been like 20-2 or 20-3 before they started resting the other good people on the team. And that's how they picked up the other 2 or 3 losses without Ja Morant. But again, I'm really not with it whether it's a studio analyst. I do respect the opinions of the former players, the former athletes who may weigh in. But, and I get it in football. I get it in football. If you a young running back, maybe even a young wide receiver, going over the middle, or you got an inaccurate quarterback that's putting you in a bad position with a lot of passes often. I get it. Running back, do you go fight for this extra 2 yards? And do you take on 3 and 4 defenders? Some of us older people, you might know the story or the what was reportedly said to I saw that. Bob Lanier. We also locally, isn't Adrian Payne from Dayton, Ohio? Did he play for Dunbar? I got the wrong Spartan, Michigan State Spartan. But Adrian Payne out of Michigan State, he got killed in trying to break up a domestic violence situation or something within the last 4 to 5 days. But yeah, you got to go out here and when in all of these sports, you got to go out here and be the best version of you, and take advantage of whatever attributes you have that allow you to be great. I don't know how because you want to play smart, you want to extend your career, you want to play for championships, you want to do all of the measurables, you want to do all of the stuff that makes sense. But in a lot of these sports, at the core of it, at the very core of it, a lot of these sports is to just go out there and be the best MF at playing the sport. I know the money, the big contracts, and all of that stuff comes into it, but right now what you see in the playoffs, money has nothing to do about it. It has nothing to do with the effort that you see from some of these guys. Now, a lot of these guys are going, the effort is there, obviously, to advance in the playoff, get a ring, win a championship. But that's just the goal. That's just the prize that you get at the end. Right now, you're really out here doing some of the dumb shit that you do with your body. They're out here pushing it to the limits that they're pushing it to show that they're the best doing it. And then everything else comes along with that. So I kind of disagree with Stephen A's premise that you go out there and don't play. I don't even know how you do that. That's just like a young mobile quarterback who comes in the league, and you can't win games and compete. You can't make your team better with your arm and your ability to read defenses and execute. So you got to go out there for 2 or 3 years and make it all work with your legs, and do things off script until you pick up how you can win from the pocket. Some of these situations, you got to go out here and sacrifice. You got to make the sacrifices until it all comes together for you. And I just think Ja is a perfect example of that. That's the reason, him not doing what Ja does, they don't come back in the fourth quarter against Minnesota. In those, I don't know what did they win? 4-1, 4-2? But he doesn't win that series if he doesn't go off and do the dunks and take all the contact and get in the lane. You don't advance to now be faced. Well, his season is over now if the team doesn't advance. But that's how you get into the second round, to get the opportunity to face a Steph Curry and prove to the world that you might be the better, it's a passing, to create that passing of the torch conversation. That's what you got to do. Now, moving on, I know for those that don't know, you might be like, who in the hell is Jaron Ennis? Looking at the title, who in the hell and how is this dude a young phenom when I don't even know who he is? But this is the thing, Jaron Ennis is actually a young boxer out of Philadelphia who fights this weekend in a pretty meaningful fight on Showtime. But he appears to be one of the next young fighters who could be, who could bring some electricity to the ring, who can do some stuff that we haven't seen done in his division, welterweight, year in, year out, one of the top divisions in boxing. And he appears to this point in his career to be, I can't even say transcendent, because I don't even know what transcendent in boxing is anymore with the state of the game. But as good as the kid looks, this is what we do in boxing. This is the turnoff in boxing. But what's happening is he has to be built up. He has to become a draw and to develop his appeal. But in doing that, certain segments of the fan base want to go out here and start finding negative things to talk about the young guy. So what I'm seeing in some comment sections here and there is that Jaron Ennis looks easy to hit. And I'm like, he looks easy to hit. Are we watching the same fights? My perspective on Jaron Ennis is that what I was just talking about with Ja Morant, Jaron Ennis is trying to make a name for himself. So Jaron Ennis is not going into these fights trying to be overly cautious or safety first, defense first. He's going in the ring to put on a show. And so, yeah, while he hasn't fought that many good fighters to this point, and a couple of guys have landed a punch or two, it's because he's made it up in his mind that I'm gonna knock this person out and continue for my name to get bigger and bigger, relatively speaking. But the thing is this: when you don't have that type of attitude, or when you don't have that type of mentality in the sport of boxing, what happens is you get into a fight in the 8th or 10th round with a dude that the on-air commentators or fans are sitting here in the 8th round like he should have got rid of him 5 rounds ago. Or in the 10th round, the commentator is saying, I don't know why this guy is hanging around. Well, Jaron Ennis's mentality is I'm not letting any of these guys that shouldn't hang around, I'm not letting them hang around. So I think he's kind of been a little reckless to this point. I think the guys that he's fought, he's been comfortable making that decision. And that's what we see. But to sit here and say that he's hittable, I disagree with that. And who knew Roy Jones kind of had the chin issues that he had his last 10 or 15 fights? Who knew that we would ever see any of that when Roy Jones was in his prime, and offensively he was such a juggernaut that nobody could even find out what his Achilles heel was? I remember a couple times like Roy Jones, like he was like dismissive of a punch. He was like, I ain't worried about no punch. Ain't nobody, he talked about getting hit like it was nothing. His last 10 or 12 fights, maybe even 18 fights, it was like, damn, Roy, you don't take punches too well. But it was never an issue while he was at his peak. And I think we can see some of that with Jaron Ennis. Like, he's going to have to fight some guys that are really going to be able to show us whether or not he can really take a good punch. We may not find that out for another couple of years, possibly. But again, what I was saying with Ja Morant, right now, trying to make a name for himself, trying to create some, trying to become a draw, trying to broaden his appeal, trying to get in the ring with the bigger dudes, trying to get the public behind him to call for him to get the shots that he needs to elevate his career to the next level. You got to go out here and deliver. We just saw 2 weeks ago a kid like Shakur Stevenson, silver medalist in the Olympics, I think back in 2016. Shakur Stevenson wants to go out here and prove that he's a top pound-for-pound boxer. He's already a 2-division champion. He finally fought another champion to at least check that box. But he wants to go on and do all of these great things. But again, the knock that's becoming with Shakur Stevenson is that it looks like a lot of times we're going to have to watch his fights and go to the cards. And in this day and age, that's just not going to be an easy sell when you come to talking about wanting $5 million for a fight, $8 million for a fight, $10 million for a fight. Your fight's moving over to pay-per-view possibly. That's a difficult sell in today's market, you know. And then you got to factor in that just looking at somebody like a Floyd Mayweather, who was able to do what he did later in his career, in the latter part of his career on pay-per-view, when he wasn't getting knockouts left and right. But Floyd, before he hit 27, Floyd, before he hit 28 years old, you know, Floyd was getting dudes out of there. And here we are with Shakur Stevenson. He doesn't really have that type of he's not benefiting from knockouts, highlight reel knockouts and whatnot. So I have some concerns on what the ceiling is for Shakur Stevenson's appeal, because he's going to be a slick boxer and defensive guy. That's what his calling card is going to be. And it's difficult to get money out of boxing with that type of, you know, with those being your major selling points. I think he's a good fighter, and I'm looking forward to what he does in the future. But I gotta admit, you already hear, if you get into the comment sections, you know, online, you already hear what the narrative is forming with the idiots in the sport, and that shit only gets louder. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what happens. But Jaron Ennis, just to finish off with him, like I said, he's taking on Custio Clayton this weekend on a great, as the chief support bout for a great undisputed fight in Jermell Charlo versus Brian Castano. That should be a good fight. So it should be a lot of eyes on this fight, relatively speaking. Who knows if it'll be, you know, 700,000 viewers, 550,000 viewers, who knows. But in the boxing landscape, I'm pretty excited about this card. And I think with Clayton, you know, I think Clayton looks the part. He looks like he looks to be a pretty solid boxer. You know, maybe not a guy with a lot of draw, a lot of appeal himself, but a decent all-around boxer. Now, the one of Jaron Ennis's, or maybe his best win to this point, Clayton actually fought him in Sergey Lipinets, and it ended up being a draw in a fight that I thought Clayton won, or should have won, but you know, he didn't do enough to get the decision. So maybe that's a knock against this matchup. If, like I said, a lot of people in boxing are always looking for the negative. The glass is always half empty. Personally, I love the fight. I'm looking forward to the fight, and I'm expecting Jaron Ennis to come out and show why the talk is about him like it is. I think last fight he was out, I think was the Delorme fight, and I really hated how that fight played out, because Delorme, he was putting some pressure on Delorme, being a little reckless, trying to force the issue, which is kind of his style, as I was just talking about. And I think his pressure and everything that he brings to the table, I think it forced Delorme to duck too low, to try to evade some punches. And I think he got hit behind his ear, in the back of the head, kinda, and it ended up being a knockdown. And then he did manage to get up. The referee didn't rule it as a you know, illegal blow or whatever. The fight ended in the first round. It ended up being a knockout, and I just hated it because I really wanted to see more of Jaron Ennis, and I thought Delorme, I think because he was like disoriented and whatnot, I don't think he was really able to recover and extend the fight a little bit and let us see a little bit more from Jaron Ennis. But nobody really cared that it may have been an illegal blow. And like I said, it went down as a victory. And I don't know. I just felt like as a dude that's really trying to see what the kid may or may not be, I felt like we didn't get a chance to really see that. But, you know, things happen in boxing. Conversely, another opponent that was supposed to show us some stuff about Jaron Ennis, Chris Van Heerden. Jaron Ennis was taking him apart very early in their fight in the first round. Clash of heads, really bad cut on Van Heerden, and they had to stop the fight. But Van Heerden, a few weeks, maybe a month, 5 weeks ago or something now, went over and fought another up-and-coming welterweight in Conor Benn. And Conor Benn knocked him out, I want to say, third or fourth round. And I'm mentioning this because Conor Benn, Virgil Ortiz, Jaron Ennis, all of these guys are kind of rounding out to be the next group of guys at welterweight. You could throw another 3 or 4 names in there maybe, but that's kind of the... And Conor Benn, in my opinion, really isn't where Virgil Ortiz Jr. is and Jaron, but he's got some things going for him. But again, I'm excited about this weekend. The main event in Charlo and Castaño, that rematch. And then Jaron Ennis, it's a great opportunity for him to go out there and kind of remind fans that, you know, whenever things get worked out between Spence and Terrence Crawford, I doubt either one of them, I doubt we can ever see a matchup with either one of them against Jaron Ennis. But I like that Jaron Ennis came out this week and said, don't worry, they can move out and go on up to 154. I'll chase them down up there. Who knows if that happens, but I like for him to, you know, I like for him to keep an eye on and you got to say a lot of stuff in boxing. You got to sell yourself, you know, so I like that he's keeping those guys on alert that, you know, he wants to challenge himself and whatnot and show that he's the best. So anyway, that was just my thought, man. I really, I don't know how, I don't know how a Ja Morant goes out here and plays any differently, with the thought being that I'm going to avoid injury. I just don't think you can do that in against when you're talking about being the best at what you do, and in a sport like basketball, a big man's game. I mean, it's a reason why. It's a reason why for 17, 18 years, it's a reason why big ass LeBron James has been bouncing, or people have been bouncing off of him, and the dude really has been relatively healthy, with the exception for the last 2 years where he started missing some games, you know, extended time with injuries and whatnot. But unfortunately, Ja Morant doesn't have the luxury of being 6'8", 6'9", 250 something pounds, you know, so you got to go in there and work with what you got to work with, and go from there. But, you know, that's just my take on it. Let me get out of here. I got to do some work. That's it, man. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Peace.